Without her doing Sankirtan, there was no question of Krishna seeing her extra endeavor. You can make all the extra endeavor in your own account, but if you don't extend yourself to help others by engaging them in the pursuit of finding Krishna, you may have your pursuit, but you have to engage others in helping you to pursue your goal. That is Sankirtan. Who can do it alone? In Kali Yuga, it is not within our means to do it alone. Therefore, Mahaprabhu, he doesn't just say harinam, 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 maybe kevalam. He's not just saying just to chant, chant, chant. He says, Kali Yuga Dharma Ar Nam Sankirtan. Sankirtan means Sangha Kirtan, and it means Samyak Kirtan. Yes. Sankirtan Jagya is essential in Kali Yuga. There's no Sankirtan, your japa can never go deep. So, making the extra endeavor, you have to do two types of extra endeavor. Extra endeavor in your japa, and extra endeavor by engaging others also to come forward to assist in the group effort to appeal to Lord Krishna for his mercy, appeal to Radharani for her mercy, appeal to Nitai Gaur for their mercy. Then you can expect to get something. Without surrendering to the Sankirtan principle, you can hardly expect to get anything. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
My name is Devakinandana, disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Swami, and I came from Mayapur here in Vrindavan in '89. And one day when I came, those days I didn't have this recommendation letter. So those days was really very hard to stay in ISKCON India without recommendation letter. So because I didn't have, so for me was hard time. Then I knew my godbrother, one of the godbrother, Naveen Krishna Prabhu, and I told him that I don't have letter, I don't know where to stay and how to stay in Vrindavan. He told no problem, there's a disciple of Prabhupada, Purana Prabhu, he's a vice president. And same time he's a head pujari. So maybe he will help. So he just took to him, he just took me to home there. And immediately he gave me service in DT kitchen. So while I was serving, and same time I had a great desire to learn the instruments. So sometimes I used to go to a temple room and play with the devotees, just try to play. And then one day, Aindra he comes there, Aindra Prabhu, and he smiled me, and he just do with head, Hare Krishna. And then he asked me, what's your name, where you're from? And then later on he told me, would you like to join with us for 24 hours Kirtan?
Hare Krishna, glories to Guru Gauranga, glories to Prabhupada and Aindra Prabhu. We were interviewed at 26 2nd Avenue in September of 2012, Today is the 18th of January 2015. We are in the Harinam, New York City ashram, which is an entire house, a four-story building, about 4,500 square foot, which has been arranged for us by Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The history is that in my feeling of loss and separation and trying to make some sense out of Aindra's departure, that I felt a very powerful order or mandate to begin Harinam Sankirtan on a regular daily basis in New York City. Maybe some of you who are listening are aware or have heard of Aindra's famous Harinam Sankirtan Revolution speech, which was spoken in Varshana in March of 2009. Please remember, and I beseech you again and again, please remember, grassroots Harinam Sankirtan Revolution. Revolution means revolution. We have to turn this movement inside out, upside down, do whatever it takes to put Harinam Sankirtan back into its rightful place of dignity in the forefront of this movement. It is absolutely essential for the proper growth of this movement. And within that speech he said, do Harinam Sankirtan on the streets of all the major cities of the world every day for as many hours a day as possible, and you'll get there. He said, back home, back to Godhead. I guarantee it. Not that I guarantee it. Lord Chaitanya guarantees it. And all the predecessor acharyas, including our Srila Prabhupada, it's the right thing to do. So, out of all of Aindra's instructions and things that I've heard, that perhaps was like the beating clarion, the beating drum, the clarion call to battle. And I started about 34 months ago in March of 2012, and at that time there wasn't facility and there wasn't a consciousness or enthusiasm to do that, public Harinam Sankirtan. So I started by myself through endeavor and a lot of austerity and hard work, all the while keeping the daily Harinam going every day. It's been going every day for 34 months. Just around 2 or 3 weeks ago, by mathematical calculation, we understood that we had performed 1,008 consecutive Sankirtan Jagnas.
The first time I heard about Aindra Prabhu was in Toronto, Canada. I was in Canada for 1 or 2 years in Toronto, and Janardhan, who's the vice president for ISKCON Vrindavan, he was like the temple commander at that time in Toronto. Yeah. And there was some home program somewhere outside of Toronto, and it was like a cold, snowy winter night. So we were driving on the highway, and he popped a cassette recording of Aindra Prabhu singing, and it must have been like a night kirtan. It's like really, really quiet and eerie, kind of like. And my first reaction was, "This sounds like Pink Floyd." and it was like, because like when you become a devotee, you're supposed to give up all the mundane, materialistic kind of attachments, like music and like that. So I was like, oh my God, I can't hear this.
And then after the Sandharti, I come to see Aindra Prabhu, and he opened this door. We are in the present in his room, present moment. He opened his door and I saw beautiful Gauranitai deities. He had their bed for Gauranitai on the altar, and he had one same like this chatai. He used to sleep, I don't know if this is the same mattress. And on the corner, he had a small kitchen. And as soon as I come, he just give me asan for sitting, and then he asking me, you see why I told you and why I forced the devotee to join in 24 hours Kirtan. The first thing, because this is the desire of Srila Prabhupada. A place like Vrindavan and Mayapur, there should be always 24 hours Kirtan. And this is in the age of Kali, this is the real Dharma. Also he said that we are not Prabhupada, that we can go to West and convince the people by philosophy. We are just simple being, soul. So what we can do, chanting ourselves and to involve other. So this will be the best service, being in Vrindavan, doing 24 hours Kirtan. The same time you purification and you increase your love for Krishna, and then you help the other. And then actually he convinced me. So during the 1 year, I had 2 service. Same time 24-hour service and also DT kitchen service. In this way I just got to know Aindra Prabhu.
So I just kind of have a vague remembrance of him just kind of getting set up there. And the next year that I went, 1987, he was already set up in his room, and there was no cow dung or anything, and the 24-hour kirtan was just beginning, just like in its first year hadn't been completed yet. I was there in Gorpani in 1987. Had devotee Nitai Gopinath, who actually was in New York in 7th Avenue in 1981, 82. He came to Vrindavan to assist Aindra also. And there were a few other devotees, Ananda Chaitanya. I remember they had come out with a cassette, maybe that was 1988, that went viral all over the movement. Aindra was still wearing brahmachari saffron at that time. I just was kind of in a little bit of a feeling of disbelief and awe that Aindra had situated himself there, because I had seen how wonderful the program was in New York and what a struggle it was there, and his desires for achieving perfection in Krishna consciousness it was more facilitated in Vrindavan than it was in New York. So he was taking to it with great gusto, performing austerities, doing chaturmas, and he just really completely threw himself into Vrindavan life.
Around 1995, His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj was planning on spending maybe 4 months out of the year here in Vrindavan. So as his disciple, I figured, well, that sounds like a good idea. So I made some arrangements somehow or other to get a long-term student visa. And so I came in 1993. I think the very first impression that I had was I went to Aindra Prabhu's door, room 89, and he was in the doorway talking, or more like preaching to Nitai. Nitai was was wearing saffron cloth at the time. And he was like very, very emotional and very forcefully, instructing Nitai about some things. I think he was saying something about there was something about following the Mahajans or something. Oh, Nitai brought up some point about this verse in the Bhagavatam that following the Mahajans like that. And Aindra Prabhu said something to the effect that we don't care for the Mahajans. We only want to follow the gopis. Then I asked to speak with him because I wanted to join the 24-hour Kirtan. And so then we went inside and he started preaching to me about Kirtan, how there's different kinds of Kirtan. There's like basic learner's Kirtan or whatever, or as I call it, kindergarten Kirtan. And then there's progressive Kirtan, which he was explaining to me about. Just like in the materialistic music world, there's like rock and roll, and then there's progressive rock or progressive jazz, like that. There's a difference. There's different levels of artistic perfection or whatever, like that. So he was telling me something like, and when we're doing Kirtan, we're going to be like, it's going to be fired up, and we're going to be like, taking off, and then we're going to be flying, and then and he kept on going, like, and then we're going to be soaring, and way up there, and he was describing different levels.
First difficulty, he's the in charge of 24 hours Kirtan, and he didn't have any economic development. His department is to depend only for donation. As far as I know, he has to pay even the renting of this room to temple management. And there was a time, even the 24 hours Kirtan group, they had to cook for themselves. Because if the devotee want to take prasadam with the other temple devotees, then Aindra Prabhu had to pay the bill, and he didn't have enough money. So he had a really hard time to maintain the department.
1990, I went in January, and that's when Aindra, many people have gotten this from him. Vrindavan is the land of no return speech. Just stay here and perfect yourself and go back to Godhead. And, going to Vrindavan and serving here is the ultimate. And if you surrender to Krishna, you're not indebted to anyone. GBC authority or temple presidents that have passed away, like forefathers, this and that. But that very much set the stage for deepening my relationship with Aindra and my intense desire to think of Vrindavan in separation while doing my preaching book distribution service back here in America. That really took on a whole new dimension, and I would be thinking of him over there a lot. Also during that trip, Aindra was intensely desirous of understanding his constitutional position, and he would be like anguishing over it, to the point of like tears, and manifest this incredible gravity and intensity. So he would have me in his room, and we were reading, in particular I remember we were reading Brihad Bhagavatam Rita. We had a Gaudiya Math translation published by Ban Maharaj. That's the only thing that was available. And, but Aindra was just scrutinizing every single point very intensely. We were reading that for weeks.
He had his big Gaurnitai deities, and then he had his small Gaurnitai deities, which were the original ones that he had from Baltimore, his small ones. And he didn't have Janava. And then he had 300 shalagrams at that time. So three trays of shalagrams. And so it was a smaller altar set up like that. But it was the same space, and in other words, they had his deities had the same amount of space that they have now. It wasn't less space there. And then he had his stove. He called his stove Bhakta stove, which was a wood stove that was left by some Prabhupada disciples that were there, that were in Vrindavan, but then later they had to go back to America. So that stove is still there. And he had a wall clock with no hands. So whenever anybody would come into the room and they'd look at the clock, they'd say, why are there no hands on the clock? So he purposely had the clock without hands so that he wouldn't have to be confined to material time.
Sachidanand Maharaj actually, he gave one 4-track recording machine. Aindra Prabhu started to think that we should do some album, because many devotees, they just talking that what you are singing, maybe we can have some copy, because really the Kirtan and Vrindavan are really sweet and everybody loves. So Aindra thought maybe we can do some album, CD album, whatever. So in this way maybe we can get some economic help. Then when Sachidanand Maharaj gave this 4-track recording machine, we start to record the Vrindavan mellows. And before that Vrindavan mellows, I don't know exactly, it's Brajavilas I think was the recording, the album called Brajavilas.
Prior to the Dastra Braja.
The Dastra Braja was, okay. Dastra Braja. And Dastra Braja was recording in the room. In the room, I know. But the Vrindavan mellows we did in temple room. We used to working at night and night, maybe to take out only one song for 10 minutes or 14 minutes. Maybe it takes us like 20 nights or 15 or 30 nights even, because we didn't have such a professional machine that we can delete and re-record or we just add. No. So we had to make everything perfect in one time. So kartal should be the perfect, and kartal prayer is to be like, few meters far, so that sound can be added so nicely. And clapping will be after, and then we have to make the women voice, same time the female voice.
Aindra made a statement in the last months that it might sound puffed up, but when I chant, I know that Radha Shyama are listening. It might sound puffed up, but it's the truth. So, Aindra had the ear of the deities, and he was steadily his relationship with the holy name and the deities through his Nam Sankirtan in the temple was Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, ever increasing ocean of transcendental happiness and potency. So, so many devotees will give similar answers to this. They just felt the perfection of their Krishna consciousness and just feeling that this is the highest and best Krishna conscious experience I've ever had from doing anything else. And Aindra was showing with practical demonstration what it's like to come together as a loving team of brothers and sisters, to chant for the pleasure of Krishna. And, and Aindra was contributing all these wonderful melodies, raagas. Aindra gives a description of rag kirtan. Rag means not our attraction to the melody, but it means Krishna's attraction to us. And he related that to offering what Krishna likes in terms of different preparations. He gave the story of Prabhupada's visit to the Chicago temple in 1975, I believe. And Prabhupada was given the Raj Bhoga offering. And there was a carob peanut butter burfi sweet. And Prabhupada asked for the head cook or pujari to come and ask him, "What is this?" He said, "That's the daily sweet, Prabhupada." He said, I know that, but what is it? It's carob and peanut butter burfi. And Prabhupada said, "Carob is for hippies. Don't offer carob to the deities. I've given you so many sweets, sandesh, rasgulla, burfis, things that Krishna likes." So Aindra was saying that the Indian classical rag system is something that Krishna likes. And he likened unto, and also gave the analogy to, Krishna is the same. The deities are the same deities, Radha Shama Sundar, but we can appreciate their beauty in a different way through so many different dresses, clothes, colors, ornaments, different types of jewelries. So the holy name is one, but decorated by different ragas that Krishna likes, then we can appreciate the holy name in so many different ways.
We would record in his room, but he liked more to record in the temple room because the deities were there. I mean, his deities are in his room, but he wanted to record for the temple deities, and he preferred actually the temple room also. And we would take this what's it called? Not a forklift. It's what's it called? Anyhow, whatever. So we'd roll the whole recording equipment on this thing, and we'd go down the stairs, two flights of stairs, and then down the samadhi steps, and then into the temple room, and then at 12 o'clock at night, we'd sit down in the temple room and record, and then some of the austerities were when the lights go out, and also the dogs barking in the middle of the night, but otherwise it was quiet like that, and so he would argue, sometimes devotees would say that actually we should, if we want to make it more professional, we should actually go to a recording studio. So we should go to Delhi, and even if we have to pay a little money and like that to get it more professional like that. But his take was that actually because everything done in Vrindavan is magnified 1,000 times. So even if it's done imperfectly, it's better than doing it somewhere else. If you distribute one book in Vrindavan, that's equal to distributing 1,000 books anywhere else in the world. So you get 1,000 times the benefit for distributing that one book in Vrindavan, and the person that receives that book, they also receive 1,000 times the benefit for getting the book in Vrindavan. And not only that, but you also get the 1,000 times the benefit of the person that received the book also.
So doing Kirtan with Aindra Prabhu is an amazing thing because you never realize the time. Because you are in another planet. in another dimension. The time is goes. You forget yourself, especially the night shift, especially for the recording. This I remember, because sometime maybe if you don't come earlier for the evening prasadam, then there is no prasadam. And sometimes we didn't have prasadam, but we have to start the kirtan. And even we are hungry and doing kirtan, and you don't feel that we are hungry, because like I told you, doing kirtan with him, like we are in another dimension. Time, you don't realize the time,
This is a very sweet story. When Aindra got the final step in his citizenship, it was kind of like a high school diploma kind of folder with the certificate that, he had changed his name for Edward Franklin Stryker. The Aindra Das is hereby a citizen of India. And it was like the final 500 or 1500 rupee. Everything was a 500 rupee greased the palm of some minor clerk in the Mathura court section. It's like the main police barracks, and they have the courts there. And we went there with the devotee Devakinandana, who very much befriended Aindra. A little older than Aindra. He had his children Satyam and Shivam, his sons, and his daughter Preeti. Preeti is a very loyal and devoted follower of Aindra. She would make different flower decorations for the deities when Aindra would dress Radha Shyama-Sundar, and she'd bring them. And we were invited to their home many times. Aindra was there when Devakinandana Prabhu left his body in early January 2009. We were right there performing Kirtan when he left his body, and he was actually consoling Priti, who was, crying and very emotional. Her father just passed away, and he actually was like cradling her head and like touching her head and patting her. So, Aindra became so ecstatic when he finally received. It was a long process, I think, like at least 5 years, if not more, to get citizenship. He was originally dealing with a lawyer who was like cheating him for money and things, and so then ultimately Devakinandana himself took up the process. It was like something like the application, which was filed in Mathura, had to be transferred to Lucknow, which was the state capital of Uttar Pradesh, some, however many kilometers away that is, like 300, 400, 500 kilometers away from Vrindavan. And then once it's there, it goes back to Mathura, and it goes back to Lucknow, then it goes to Delhi, and then from Delhi it would go to Mathura, and different things. You'd have to put an ad in like 3 different newspapers. Does anyone object to me getting citizenship? And and you have to, and there's this. You had to get a formal declaration of renunciation of his U.S. citizenship. So he's going to the U.S. embassy in Delhi, and they're telling him, "Are you nuts? Are you out of your mind? Do you want it? Are you sure you want to do this? Once you sign this paper, you'll have no one to protect you. Like, Uncle Sam of the U.S. government is there protecting you." And Aindra it was a woman, an Indian woman, but a U.S. citizen woman. And Aindra just very casually said to her, "That's all right. Krishna's there. He'll protect me." So, there's so many snags along the way. So when he finally got that was one of the happiest moments. And Aindra was just like glowing. He was just like effulgent and shining, and just his happiness was just like a shower of nectar to everyone. And I remember it was like mid-afternoon, and we came back, and he went and put this high school diploma-like certificate at the feet of Radha Shyama-Sundar. And I think he might have left it there for the darshan when it opened at 4:30. I can't remember for sure, but he was like putting it there. And the kirtan that day was just so sweet and wonderful. And, you know, that was a good source of anxiety for many years up until that point, you know. You know, Aindra would, like, war was declared in India between Pakistan. The first business of the Indian government was to order all foreigners out, you know, all visas, student visas, entry visas revoked, everybody out. And he was so much afraid of that. So he saw that, getting that citizenship, as direct mercy from the hand of Srimati Radharani herself, that you will always stay close to my lotus feet and never leave my abode. So he got the certificate, but he never bothered to get a passport, an Indian passport, which is fairly easy to do from that point. And devotees like Gopal would entreat to him, you know, come to America, we'll do a big tour, we'll be there for New York. Aindra revisits New York, and he mused and, you know, slightly entertained the idea, but he would always just say, I don't have any passport, so I can't travel. And he would just sit there like laying back on his mat, you know, like I'm not going to move a muscle for that, you know. It's just like Raghunath Das Goswami when Lord Chaitanya gave him his Govardhan Shila and the garlands of small conch shells. This indicates that Srimati Radharani has given me an eternal place at her lotus feet. So that's the way Aindra viewed getting the citizenship. He was so happy and just relieved from so much anxiety, transcendental anxiety about his Vrindavan Vas and his service to Radha Shyama-Sundar.
Yeah, one time I was sitting in the Bhagavatam class, and the class was over, and everyone started getting up and leaving, and I was in front of Gaur-Nitai, sitting on the floor, and I couldn't move, and I couldn't turn my head, and I couldn't speak, and I had jaundice, and when you have jaundice, every motion is very sluggish, and even your thinking is like sluggish like that. So I was sitting there, and I was trying to understand what was going on, and I couldn't understand. I couldn't even try to understand because my mind wasn't working. So I was just like, you know, like a vegetable. And then all of a sudden I heard Aindra's voice in the temple room, and he was at the other end of the temple room, and he was shouting. He was saying, you know, why is Bhagavad Purana still sitting down when he's supposed to be in the Kirtan? And I heard him from across the temple room floor like that. And then after a while, I heard this sound, and it was like a and he had taken the kirtan harmonium, and he had thrown the harmonium across the temple room floor at me, or slid it towards me, and by the time it reached, you know, near me, it's you know, the what do you call them? It slowed down, and by the time it reached me, it was just like nothing, you know, minimal like that. But because I had a jaundice, it felt like a ton of bricks. So then it was like, then he comes over, and he starts shouting and saying, you know, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you getting up? You know, you're supposed to do kirtan like that. So then he realizes that something's wrong. So then he says, what? You have jaundice? I couldn't speak. I couldn't turn my head. I couldn't move or get up or anything. And then when he said that, I just, like, you know, tears started shooting out of my eyes because I couldn't answer. So then he started saying, now you got to get on a rickshaw, and you got to go down to Loy Bazaar, and you got to visit the tantric doctor, Shamsaki. He's a Vaishnav tantric. And you got to go on a rickshaw all by yourself. No, he didn't say that, but he said, you got to go on a rickshaw, for every day for about, 2 weeks. And he's, and this Vaishnav tantric, his name is Shamsaki, and he's gonna bathe you with water, and after a while the water it's gonna turn yellow. That means that the jaundice is coming out.
So Aindra was more a person that you would have to, not out of false pride or false ego, but he was a homebody. He just liked to be at home. He liked being in his room. And his room was just like such a transcendental, amazing universe. Like even how big was the room? 14 by 12 by 16 foot, whatever it is. He had that one corner was his writing, and another was a deity, his sleeping area, the kitchen, medicine cabinet, musical instruments, go down, recording studio, meeting hall, everybody just come in and just, I remember there'd be so many devotees in the room, you'd be like a strap hanger, like on the tree, just kind of like leaning on it, or, just sit down, stand up, just squeeze in somewhere, but Aindra was on, like 1,000,000 o'clock pro schedule, and, but he would try to every once in a while have like a schedule reform. I remember one time he would kicked everybody out and turned off his light. It was 9 o'clock. And the next day, trying very vigilant, keep the same thing, 10 o'clock. And maybe by the third day, it was back to 11 o'clock and midnight, finished, So it was something for Andrew to squeeze all of his everything he wanted to do into one day. It would be just classic, that Aindra would be more or less unavailable until after Kirtan. And, Aindra transferring from the temple room back to his room, devotees be waiting out in that, side of the temple. And the word was Aindra would get snagged. He'd be preaching and talking, and that would be the opportunity for ladies to try to get some of his instruction and association. But then he'd make it up to his room, and devotees would come in there, and many times he'd preach up until 11 o'clock, midnight, and finally say, all right, everybody's got to go, again and again. And that's, Aindra Darshan time was after Kirtan in the evening.
You may say he's mystery man. You never know what he's thinking, and you never know what he's going to do next. All I know for my experience, that most of the time at night he used to wake up, and during the day he used to take rest. Because at night he used to add the music in the room, and he used to worship the deities. Sometimes he used to cook, sometimes he used to chant. But whole night you can see he's running from the veranda, going bathroom and coming. He wake up. Like in Bhagavata, Krishna says to Arjuna, when the normal people sleep, then the saintly person, they wake up, no? When the saintly person sleep, then the whole world wake up, no? So I never like this kind of, when everybody sleep, all the devotee, he's wake up. And when I used to do the night save with Gopinath from Indonesia, or with Nita or Madhav, whatever, he used to come to the temple room and looking from the hole if the temple, if the Kirtan is continue. Not that he just sleeping or being in the room. Also, he was watching us. Because akhanda means without stop. And there was a time, I don't know, kind of system from his room to the temple, like microphone, I don't know what thing. If he didn't hear, any kirtan, then he would shout from here, Kirtan, Kirtan, rascals!
Well, Aindra's book, The Heart of Transcendental Book Distribution, is very, very luckily we have. Everything he's writing in that book are themes and deliberations he had been keeping and meditating on for years and years throughout his entire devotional life. So he just felt that he wanted to reveal his mind and heart, and in that mature stage of his devotional life, he undertook the task beginning in earnest, I'd say 2004. When Srila Vyasadeva, this Srimad Bhagavatam, written by Srila Vyasadeva in his maturity. Just like he didn't feel satisfied up till the time of writing Mahabharata and all the Puranas and etc., and he was instructed to write Srimad Bhagavatam. So, there's the practical that Prabhupada appeared to Aindra in a dream and told him to write a book about transcendental book distribution. And Aindra had a kind of chiding dialogue with Prabhupada. A book, all right, but I'm going to write the book my way. And kind of Aindra was just concerned how in the attempt to push book distribution, Harinam Sankirtan was more or less sidelined or abandoned. And so kind of the term, the heart of transcendental book distribution, the heart of the preaching movement is what he's saying in the book, his realization, his heartfelt feelings. That's there in accord with Prabhupada's instruction, write a book about transcendental book distribution, which is more or less a book about the inner life of the preacher. And I would say the best bhajan, the best Gostiyanandi is the perfect bhajananandi who opens the storehouse of love of Godhead and distributes.
We have something that's called the bathroom test. I said, the what? The bathroom test. So I wasn't so qualified, but that was his policy for because all kinds of people want to try to join, and they have different motivations. Some devotees they're trying to get out of their other service, or they're kicked out of some other service, or they're kicked out of another temple, and they're just like floating around and jumping temple hopping, and different things are going on, or they come to Vrindavan looking for for whatever. So, and he was always saying that the Indian devotees they're mostly the prakrita bhaktas. They're mostly materialistic like that. So, especially the Indian devotees, he would engage them in the bathroom test, which meant cleaning the bathrooms. As you probably know, in India, there's not so much concern, high concern, unfortunately. And there's also Aindra Prabhu he had a dream of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was in the hallway, and Prabhupada was shouting, saying, doesn't anyone care about cleaning the bathrooms? Something like that. So Aindra Prabhu, he implemented that instruction for him personally, and he would clean the bathrooms himself.
So to take him to Mayapur, But then when he got there, he just fell in love with the program, and he was like practically before the first 5 or 6 days was over, he was making a plan with Gopal. All right, next year we're going to do this and that, and he just fell in love with it. So that was quite fun traveling. Fun. It was quite like moving a mountain, moving Aindra from Mayapur, from Vrindavan to Mayapur to get him out. I remember it was like the first year it was so hard to get him out on time, and he's paying obeisances and saying goodbye, and I think we arrived at the check-in counter at the Delhi airport with like a minute and a half before they closed it, it was like total anxiety getting there, and it was, Aindra brought his principal deities, Govardhan Shilas and Gaura-Nitai, Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, and principal Shalagram Shilas. And it was very nice to see Aindra in the Mayapur setting. And Gopal Prabhu had a whole apartment in a place called Dina Chaitanya Bhavan, which was off the Taranpar Road in the back. There's a nice photograph. Gopal had forced Aindra to take a walk, take the mile walk to get some exercise, and Aindra chanting japa on that road in Mayapur, and he was very, very happy. I remember him; he was describing, the mellow of Mayapur as being very, very soft and soft, and whereas the mellow in Vrindavan comparatively was sweet, but there was a kind of strictness or sharpness to it. It was like comparing the two mellows, Mayapur and Vrindavan. And Aindra was very much enlivened by all the devotees gathering, and he took the opportunity to address the devotees and tell them to do public harinam sankirtan. He coined the term Hare Krishna phobia. That means as early as 1966, when devotees were slowly but surely adopting the devotional dress code and shaving head and tilak, devotees to Prabhupada, would you like me to wear tilak in public? And Prabhupada said, if you are not ashamed. So in other words, Aindra wanted devotees to stand up and represent Lord Chaitanya, stand up and represent Lord Nityananda the way the members of the Hare Krishna movement are supposed to. No more Hare Krishna phobia. We've been incognito too long. Why did Hare Krishna become a household word? Because we were everywhere. Everywhere they went, we were there. With shaved head and dhoti chanting Hare Krishna. Aindra had insight and corrected this idea that book distribution, being called the Brihat Mridanga, is the greater Mridanga, or having greater importance. He said, no, this is not correct. It's greater in terms of its function or profitability, that it can go hand to hand, house to house, country to country. Just a week ago, I met a young man in the Union Square subway. His father had died 3 years earlier, and in his father's possessions was one of Srila Prabhupada's books that he had somehow come into his possession however many years ago, 25, 30 years ago. And then the grown-up son of his father who had passed away read the book and became interested. So, but Aindra said that the book is the expansion of the Kirtan. In other words, the harinam is the living book. It is the life and soul, as Lord Chaitanya revealed, of all transcendental knowledge that's written in the book, that people can practically take shelter in. So the Harinam Sankirtan is of the original and hence greatest importance, and the Brihad Mridanga is the expansion of that already greatest importance Harinam, extending its power through a seemingly more dexterous functionality. But then he said, if after getting the books and they come to the temple where they don't see a Sangha of Vaishnavas engaged in the Yuga Dharma, then it defeats the purpose of them having gotten the book in the first place. Aindra, coming and being with Aindra, he was always very, very deeply insightful on many, many points. He was, beyond mediocrity and just kind of taking things on surface value.
He used to say always, the above everything, the love of God is. So don't hanker for material benefits and material happiness. Whatever things you are doing for Krishna, there is a big balance. So you may be suffering for some little thing, for being comfortable in this material world. But Krishna has many things reserved for you. So that's why I think he used to do lots of austerity. Because to be next to him, to be with him, it's really you need extra power. Because I told you, he's a Naistik brahmachari. I know there was a time that my wife, that time we were not married, she used to come and recording my voice, and he got to know that there was a girl recording my voice. Then he just asked me, how come you allow to girl to record your voice? That means, very soon you'll be entangled with her. Don't allow this. So no, well, she's free to record. I cannot say her no, So, and then even he heard that sometimes I used to talk to her. And then one day he catch me in my room and said, come to my room, I need to talk to you. I heard that you are talking with that young girl. What is that? You are brahmachari. You don't want that Krishna should hug you and Krishna should embrace you. If you want to be the part of the Krishna, if you want to be Krishna's servant, you should wait for Krishna. Why you are looking for material happiness? So his preaching was really strong.
One time I was with Ekalabya. Ekalabya, the trumpet player, he was on the party for a few weeks, and we were in his room. We were standing in his room near the doorway, and he was doing his deity worship, and the subject came up that there's so many devotees that are probably waiting in line to go back to Godhead to take part in the transcendental leelas of Radha Krishna. And when are we ever going to have, a chance like that? So something along those lines. And then Ekalabya, he said something like, well, maybe we're just supposed to stay here, until we are qualified, or maybe we will never be qualified, for a long period of time, whatever. Or he said something like, maybe we'll take birth again in the material world, like that. So then when he said that, then Aindra Prabhu, he turned around and he picked up his chair, like one of these chairs, and he threw it right at us. and both of us, we got out of the range of fire, and the chair went straight past us and hit the door. He was really mad. because he so much wanted to go back to Godhead that he didn't take anything that was like half-baked philosophy or anything like that.
Ramananda Roy, in answer to Lord Chaitanya, says of all types of unbearable happiness, there's no worse unhappiness than being separated from the Lord's devotee. But serving the mission of the devotee, the true devotee, his mission is the mission of Guru Parampara, is Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Aindra is very great because he took up the anxiety of the Guru Parampara and Lord Chaitanya as his own. My dear Haridas Thakur, how will all these poor malechas and yavanas be delivered? This is my great anxiety. Do not be in anxiety, my Lord. Simply by the loud chanting of the holy names, even the living entities like insects will be delivered. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is service to relieve the Lord from the anxiety he feels for the plight of the fallen conditioned souls. So Aindra took that up, and his being very, very strong and sometimes heavy was actually an act of his great love for Guru Parampara, Lord Chaitanya, and his compassion. Like he would say, it's not my desire to act or speak in such a way to bring hostilities upon myself, but I feel compelled to.
When I used to do the night shift with Gopinath, sometimes Gopinath used to say, Devaki, I'm very hungry, can you go and get some prasadam? So I said, I go. Now it's 2 o'clock at night. Knock the Aindra Prabhu's door. I'm sure he has some stuff. So I used to come and knock the door. And Aindra opened the door and he said, what do you want? Some more prasad for Gopinath. Oh, this Gopinath, he always eat. Then he had always reserved some more prasad. So the only thing I know, whenever I'm hungry, I just knock his door and I'll put only some more prasad. Gaurnitai Mahaprasad. He used to offer the Gaurnitai whole banana without peeling, whole mango without cutting. It was a different mood, So it was, it's a different ras. So he used to take care of like this. And whenever the devotee gets sick, anything, he used to send another devotee with him, take him to doctor or whatever, and then he used to say, don't eat anything, being fasting. Yeah, he used to take care of like brothers. As far as I remember, all the brahmachari, he used to take care of like brother. Very nicely. And same time, the mostly thing, he likes to preach the devotees so they shouldn't confuse. He always giving really with good sauce, Not to deviate, He was very fixed. No matter how, but in this life you have to go back to Godhead. Take it serious. This was his message. Because he said many times in the class, I remember, in this age of Kali, no Krishna fame, no Krishna guna, no Krishna form, only Krishna name. So in this age of Kali, only harinam is the essence. And this was his preaching. So no matter how, just do the harinam.
Oh, I had to leave India. My visa was over. And before I left, actually, I had a sort of like a nervous breakdown. Actually, I sort of like offended one devotee. So he kicked me off the party, and I was staying outside like I am now, but doing kirtan. He never barred anybody from doing kirtan, no matter what kind of nonsense demon kind of devotee, so-called devotee anyone was. So he he actually later on told me that he wanted me to learn how to stand on my 2 feet, in meaning that because like sometimes people are like little wannabes, or they're like little groupies or whatever, and they want to join the Kirtan party because either they're motivated or they have some kind of like puppy love for Aindra Prabhu or something like that. And those kind of people, they're basically, what's the kind of a terminology could you put on that? Like a wannabe or like a groupie or something like that. So, so I guess I was in that category somehow. But so I was kicked off the party at one point. So then my visa ended, and I had to go back to America and get a new passport and a new visa or whatever like that. So as I was leaving, I was telling him, well, maybe when I come back, I can rejoin the Kirtan party, and he was very sweet, and he said that yes, that was quite possible and like that.
One devotee, Giridhari Prabhu, who was assisting Aindra with his deities, and he was remarking at Aindra's Tirobhav that in the first year that he had perfected himself so greatly, and he was performing so much austerity and just so intense and sincere that Krishna from his side, enough is enough. You have to come home. Aindra was such an intense fire of sincerity. He was just constantly stoking the fire more and more and more. That's one reason why his kirtans are just so arresting and so powerfully attractive and astounding. You're telling me the story of one young man in Germany who was just looking online. I had the experience in the Times Square subway, one Spanish young man, Latino young man, and he was interested in Krishna consciousness, looking on the YouTube, and he found the video, Mayapur 2007, Radhanath Swami and Aindra Prabhu chanting in Mayapur. And he said, how can I meet him? And I understood I was in the position to break the news to this sincere aspirant that Aindra's left the world. And I told him very gently, and he was crestfallen. He was heartbroken.
I saw many devotees. They are kind of worshipping, but way the Aindra Prabhu worship the deities, it was for me totally different worship style, because this big Gaurnitai, he had a palanquin and he had to make them sleep, and then morning again he wake up, and same time he used to give massage them. So then I told them, Aindra Prabhu, how is possible? Well, they're my brother. I need to take care of them. You don't need to sleep. You need to sleep, no? So also they need to sleep. Because sometimes you may think that how is possible so big deity? And he's putting them sleep. But he used to do sleep them, give massage, then he used to cover them. Like he's taking care of his brother. He used to do like this. So his worshipping is totally different. I never saw in my life. And I know when the old tamal tree, when died, became dry, then the temple authority, they thought that we should cut and we burn in the bank of the Jamuna river. But the Prabhu said no. He just went and he cut the tree and he bring whole tree here. And I know there are 2 tongues missing actually. This was the upper one, and he laying down on the wall side behind the Gaurnitai. because he used to sleep here, and Gornita is there, and behind there was a full of tamal in a tamal tree. Whole tamal tree was there.
Aindra, in a sense, by palmistry or astrology, was supposed to have lived to have been 82 years. So he departed at age 57. So I kind of feel like I'm allowing Aindra to possess me physically and mentally to continue. Many times the invitation and the proposal was given to him, you come back to New York to do like a summer tour or something. And he didn't flatly say no. He would entertain or muse on the idea, but ultimately he wasn't going to go. But his heart always ached, and he was always concerned for the position of Harinam Sankirtan all over the world. Like he was calling for grassroots Harinam Sankirtan revolution, a coalition of devotees to come together. Aindra's legacy is non-different than the very strong desire of the predecessor acharyas, who are the guiding line of this movement, no doubt. And this is the glory of real individual spiritual personality. Prabhupada says to surrender fully to the order of Guru is to acquire complete freedom in life. So Aindra did that. That statement he made to his father. His father was driving him to the temple on Easter Sunday, 1973. Son, don't you think you'll be limiting yourself by monastic life? And Aindra said that, well, it might seem externally limiting, but if I can go to the unlimited world of freedom through the door of monastic life, then it's indeed worthwhile. And he said his father understood.
He's a sadhu person. Mostly I know that whenever any Mataji or any lady wants to talk to him, he has to look at on the floor, never see the face to face. The first thing, he wants to know why she wants to talk to me. The second thing, if it is necessary, is to look at the floor, not directly face to face. That means he wants to protect himself and same time give respect to her, because for the Matajis, you have to be, if you want to stay the brahmachari, you have to know how to respect the Matajis. Because the same Mataji has 3-4 characters. First, she born as a baby daughter. Then after she became wife of somebody. Then she became mother of somebody. So he was always far from the women. I know this because he used to get angry whenever any devotee of his department talking with any Mataji. Wow, he's screaming like anything.
One of the main themes he would have with women, he would relate to them the example of Lakshmi Devi, her prayers in the 5th canto, and Rukmini, don't be so fool to desire a so-called husband of this material world. You say, I need a husband just as much as you do. Krishna is my husband. Like that. So, anyone who would think that they need some type of material relationship, he would just chide them and point them out as being foolish and show by his practical immersion in the reality of Krishna Sambandha the superiority of taking Krishna as your life's companion. Krishna is my life's companion. Harinam is my life's companion. You don't come to Vrindavan to find one's life's companion. International meat mart, Krishna is my life's companion. Harinam is my life's companion. He should be your life's companion also.
Before meeting with Aindra Prabhu, I never had this taste of chanting the harinam. I found the real taste when I joined in 24 hours Kirtan. Now whenever I have time, although I live in West, but whenever I have time, I just take my harmonium. As soon as I closed my eye, I remember that I am in Vrindavan. And this thing only happened because I was with Aindra Prabhu. And he is to transform with his sweet mellows. I told you because we used to do the night sip. The night sip is the most intimate time that one can chant the holy name for their Lord's sakes. And then it takes you in different mode and different dimension. And then your heart becomes full of joy.
Aindra was describing in his last months the principle of going the extra mile, going beyond mediocrity, to prove to Krishna that we really do want to enter into an eternal loving relationship with him. And he marked about the Damodar Leela that Mother Yashoda couldn't bind Lord Krishna. She brought all the ropes in the house and always found that the rope was 2 fingers too short. Then she had to get all the neighbors to come and bring all the ropes in their house. And when Krishna, Aindra describes, saw that Mother Yashoda and all her friends were they had done their level best, and then he agreed to be bound.
He would dress the deities 2 days a week for reading of the deities, and at 7:40 he would do Kirtan until Srimad Bhagavatam class. So I think on a Friday he dressed the deities once, and I missed it. I didn't know, and so then on Saturday, was it Saturday the 16th or I can't remember the dates, but I came the next day, and I was standing in front of Radha Shyama Sundar as I just came in the temple room, and the devotee that was working with him, he comes up from behind and he gives me a bear hug, and he says, "Aindra Prabhu has left his body." And I was like, standing there in front of the deities, and I didn't know whether to sit down or turn around or keep standing up, or because I came to do Kirtan, thinking that he was going to be leading the Kirtan. And I was dumbstruck, and I had my mouth open, and I was just standing there like for about a minute or something like that.
Oh, it was like somebody actually shot me. I got really, because the first thing I was thinking impossible that can happen. But you never know when the death comes. But actually Aindra Prabhu didn't have enough age to give up the body. But I don't know how Krishna's arrangement, everything. Because I never thought it will happen. And suddenly happened this thing. Then as soon as I heard this, I called to the guest house office. And then the guest house office, they just give me some, what they knew, they told me. But I was not fully satisfied. Then I called to Radha Damodar. So how the Aindra Prabhu happened this thing. Then Radha Damodar, he told that he was in Himalaya. So also he didn't see the things. Then I called Krishna Bhakti. I tried to find out how the things happened to Aindra Prabhu. I even don't know, even today, how the things happened and what happened, how he died or gave up the body. So it was for me really like somebody shot me, I couldn't believe that these things happened to Aindra Prabhu. Because we are belongs to 24 hours Kirtan, so Aindra Prabhu was like our power. So you see, when you are driving the car, if there is no energy, there is no petrol, how will you drive the car? So I was thinking they're finished. 24 hours Kirtan is finished. No more. Somehow Gopal and the other devotees, they're taking care of. I'm very thankful to them.
I remember I was leaving leaving Vrindavan in the summertime to come back here, even though it was like, just for a few months. It was always like a kind of a painful experience, saying goodbye to Aindra, and Aindra would reciprocate. He'd be sorry to say goodbye to me also. I remember the last year, it was a Purushottam month, mid-April to mid-May 2010. I believe I left on the 18th. Purushottam month had ended on the 14th. And I had walked over to Aindra's room. I wanted to say goodbye. We were leaving something like 5, 6 o'clock at night or something. And he wasn't there. So I was walking back to where my room was to get my luggage and get in a taxi and everything. That was, near the MBT, the greenhouse. Now it's a brahmachari colored house, but it was with the VIHE audio ministry, 100 yards up past the MBT. So I was walking back across the Cadia land in the backyard of the ISKCON property, and Aindra had walked all the way to my house. He was going to say goodbye to me, and we just met in the middle. So I was very touched by that. At that time, Aindra was being very reclusive. He was chanting 2 or 3 lakhs of japa a day, and he was more or less kept himself shut up and wouldn't be entertaining. Somebody knock on the door, he wouldn't answer. And so what to speak of physically leaving? And he came all the way to say goodbye to me. So that was that was the last time I had seen him. He was wearing like a chadar was like wrapped around his face, so you could just see his face. When Aindra would become very, very happy, he would just like have this beaming smile. He would just look like a brilliant moon shining.
Then we were in the Kirtan, and I guess an hour later, or after we were doing Kirtan, then they had done the autopsy. This was like maybe 6 hours later, 7 hours later. So then they were getting ready to take him to the Yamuna River to put him on the bonfire. And I figured again that I honestly thought that Aindra Prabhu would have wanted me to stay, and so I stayed and did Kirtan.
Humor is not like before. Before was totally different humor. Because to being with Aindra Prabhu is totally different mood. Now the mood is different. Even to get the harmonium with the new stuff is very difficult because they don't let you sing, because everybody wants to sing and everybody wants to be somebody, everybody wants to be expert, everybody wants to be famous. But in Aindra Prabhu's time, as soon as he find out who came, Nitai, Gopinath, Devaki, Madhava, who, immediately, you take this time to this time. He immediately fixed. What I learned from Aindra Prabhu, it will be with me. Wherever I'll go, I'll carry. So for me, it's a really matchless gift that he get, the 24 hours Kirtan movement. And because of 24 hours Kirtan, today the Vrindavan temple is lively. If there is no Kirtan, it will be same like other temple we just seen there around the Vrindavan. Only Bankeviri and ISKCON. But because ISKCON, Vrindavan is very famous because of 24 hours Kirtan. That everybody, whenever, in the Western country, whenever they come from office or job, they just turn on the computer and leave home to see what's going on in Vrindavan. What's going on? 24 hours Kirtan with the details.
One Vyas Puja speech Aindra made in 1997, he said, Srila Prabhupada was the greatest revolutionary I ever knew. And he said recently, in my opinion, Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement stands for total revolution. So we shouldn't be, and back to that 97, we shouldn't be happy with or complacent with the sort of humdrum things going on. We always have to be pushing forward the ideal to overcome the inertia and complacency of the modes of material nature. So Aindra's legacy is a legacy of a lover, a fighter. He was born with the name Striker. He was like of German descent. His last name was Stryker.